It was a quiet evening at the local diner, a place where families often gathered to unwind after long days. The Johnson family, Marcus, his wife Lisa, and their 2 kids, were enjoying their dinner, laughing and sharing stories. Marcus, a calm and composed man, had a secret few knew: he was a highly trained Navy SEAL. Suddenly, 2 police officers walked in and approached their table with a stern look. They said there had been a complaint about suspicious behavior and wanted to ask a few questions. Marcus stayed calm, answering politely, but the officers' tone grew harsher, and their suspicion seemed to increase for reasons Marcus couldn't understand. Lisa noticed the tension rising and quietly tried to soothe the situation. The children looked confused and a bit scared. What started as a peaceful dinner was quickly turning into an uncomfortable ordeal. But Marcus knew he had to keep control, not just for himself, but for his family. Marcus kept his hands visible on the table, his voice steady as he answered the officers' questions. He could sense their skepticism, but he refused to let anger or fear take over. Lisa reached out and gently squeezed his hand under the table, silently showing her support. The officers asked about their meal, why they were there so late, and if Marcus had any identification. Marcus calmly provided everything without hesitation. Yet, despite his cooperation, one of the officers continued to scrutinize him with a sharp gaze, as if doubting his honesty. Meanwhile, the other diner patrons were starting to notice the growing tension at the Johnson family's table. Some exchanged uneasy glances, others whispered quietly among themselves. The kids clung a little tighter to their parents, sensing something was wrong but not understanding why. Marcus's mind was racing, not with anger, but with strategy. He knew his training was about staying calm under pressure, reading the situation carefully, and protecting those who depended on him. He silently prepared himself for whatever might come next, determined to keep his family safe and end the confrontation peacefully. Lisa tried to keep her voice light as she thanked the officers for their work, hoping to ease the mood. Still, the atmosphere remained thick with tension. No one spoke about why the officers had singled them out, the question hung unspoken but heavy in the air. Just as one officer reached for his radio to call for backup, Marcus slowly shifted in his seat and locked eyes with him. In a calm but firm tone, he said, "Officer, I understand your concerns, but there's no need to escalate this. I'm more than willing to cooperate, and I assure you, we're just here enjoying dinner as any family would." The officer hesitated, sensing Marcus's quiet confidence and composure. Then Marcus added, "If you want to verify my background, I'm a Navy SEAL. You can check any time." The room fell silent. The officers exchanged glances, surprised by the revelation. Marcus's kids looked up at him with wide eyes, proud but still unsure what was happening. The lead officer took a step back, lowering his tone. "All right, sir. We didn't know." The tension eased, and the officers apologized for the disturbance. Lisa exhaled deeply, relief flooding her face. The diner's other patrons resumed their conversations, some nodding respectfully toward Marcus. What had started as an uncomfortable confrontation ended with an unexpected respect for the man who had quietly defended his family all along. The officers took a moment to collect themselves, their demeanor shifting from suspicion to respect. Marcus remained composed, but inside, he felt the familiar adrenaline pulse from years of intense training, only this time, it wasn't on a battlefield, but in a small diner surrounded by curious onlookers. The lead officer cleared his throat and said, "Sir, we appreciate your service. We're sorry if our actions made you or your family uncomfortable. It was not our intention." He glanced at Marcus's children, who were now visibly relaxing but still holding on to their parents' hands. Marcus nodded, accepting the apology with grace. "I understand your job is tough. We all want to feel safe," he replied, his voice steady. "But it's important to treat everyone with fairness and respect from the start." Lisa smiled warmly at the officers and added, "We're just a family trying to enjoy a simple meal. It means a lot when communities come together rather than tear each other apart." The officers nodded thoughtfully, then began to back away, their tone more friendly. Before leaving, one of them said, "Thank you for your understanding and your service, sir." As the officers walked toward the exit, the diner erupted in quiet murmurs of approval. Several patrons gave Marcus nods of respect or offered small smiles, acknowledging the strength and dignity he displayed. Marcus reached over and took Lisa's hand, feeling a deep sense of pride, not just in his own background, but in how he handled the situation for the sake of his family. The children, now smiling again, asked if they could finish their dessert. That night, as the Johnson family left the diner, Marcus felt a renewed commitment to protect and stand up for what was right, knowing that sometimes true strength isn't just about skill but about keeping calm and showing courage when it matters most. The Johnson family returned home that night, their hearts still beating with the echoes of the evening's tense moments. Marcus sat at the kitchen table, reflecting quietly while Lisa prepared a late snack for the kids. The children, now feeling safe again, played softly nearby, unaware of the deep conversations unfolding between their parents. Marcus spoke gently to Lisa, "You know, it's not just about what happened tonight. It's about setting an example, showing the kids that dignity and calmness can disarm even the toughest situations." Lisa nodded, her eyes filled with admiration. "You handled everything perfectly. The way you stayed calm, explained yourself, and reminded them of who you are without raising your voice, it was powerful." Marcus smiled faintly. "That's the training, but it's also who I am. At the end of the day, it's about protecting my family in every way possible. Sometimes that means physical strength. Other times, it's about patience and respect." The next morning, Marcus received a call from the local police chief, who wanted to personally apologize and invite the family to a community meeting aimed at improving relations between officers and residents. Marcus agreed, seeing it as an opportunity to foster understanding and change. Word of the incident quietly spread through the neighborhood, not as a story of conflict, but as one of courage, respect, and hope. Marcus's calm bravery had turned a difficult situation into a moment that sparked conversations about fairness and unity. From that day on, Marcus not only continued his work as a Navy SEAL but also became a quietly influential figure in his community, showing that true strength comes not just from physical training, but from the courage to stand tall with integrity and grace. In the weeks that followed, Marcus and his family found themselves unexpectedly at the center of a broader conversation in their community. The police chief's invitation to the community meeting became a platform not only for apologies but for real dialogue. Marcus spoke openly about his experience that night, not to point fingers, but to highlight the importance of trust, communication, and mutual respect between law enforcement and citizens. At the meeting, Marcus shared his story with a calm authority that commanded attention. He talked about his years as a Navy SEAL, how training taught him discipline, patience, and how to assess situations carefully. But more importantly, he spoke about his role as a father and husband, and the kind of world he wanted for his children. Community members listened intently as Marcus emphasized that fairness and understanding should be the foundation of every interaction. He encouraged police officers to see the humanity in everyone they encounter, and urged residents to engage in open dialogue to build bridges rather than walls. The police chief thanked Marcus for his honesty and leadership, and promised to implement new training programs aimed at improving communication skills and reducing misunderstandings. Marcus also offered to volunteer time to help bridge the gap between the community and the police force, showing that his commitment extended far beyond that one difficult evening. Back at home, Marcus noticed a change, not just in how others viewed his family, but in his own sense of purpose. His military training had prepared him for many battles, but this new mission was about changing hearts and minds in his own neighborhood. It was a challenge he embraced with the same determination he had shown in the most dangerous missions abroad. Lisa supported him wholeheartedly, proud of the way he balanced strength with compassion. Their children grew up witnessing firsthand what it meant to stand up with integrity, to face adversity with calm, and to use every opportunity to teach kindness and respect. In time, the diner where it all began became a symbol, a place where a simple family dinner sparked a movement toward greater understanding. Marcus's story reminded everyone that heroes aren't just found on distant battlefields, sometimes, they're right there at the table, protecting what matters most. Months passed, and the ripple effects of that evening continued to grow stronger. Marcus became a respected voice in community forums, schools, and local events, sharing his insights on leadership, resilience, and the power of peaceful communication. The Navy SEAL who once fought on battlefields abroad now fought a different kind of battle, one for trust and unity within his own city. Lisa found herself inspired as well, volunteering with community groups focused on family support and youth mentorship. Together, they became pillars of a movement dedicated to breaking down barriers and building connections. Their home became a hub of activity, where neighbors gathered to discuss ideas, share stories, and support one another. At the diner where the incident occurred, the owner decided to host monthly, community nights, evenings dedicated to fostering open dialogue between residents and local officials. Marcus often attended, offering encouragement and sharing his experiences, reminding everyone that change begins with small, honest conversations. One evening, as Marcus sat with Lisa and their children, he noticed the warmth and laughter filling the room, a stark contrast to that tense night months ago. A group of officers approached their table, this time with smiles and genuine curiosity, asking about the family's involvement in the community. Marcus smiled back, extending a hand in friendship. The barriers that once stood tall were slowly coming down, replaced by respect and understanding. It was not an easy journey, there were setbacks, doubts, and challenges, but the commitment to keep moving forward never wavered. Through it all, Marcus remained humble, reminding everyone that no matter how tough the situation, strength came from compassion and the courage to listen. His story became a testament to the idea that real heroes don't just fight with their fists, they fight with their hearts. As the night ended and the Johnson family walked home together, Marcus looked around at his neighborhood with hope. The battle for respect and fairness wasn't over, but he knew they were moving in the right direction, one step at a time. The months following that fateful evening became a turning point, not only for Marcus and his family but for the entire community. Word of what happened at the diner had quietly spread, and though Marcus never sought attention, his story inspired many. Invitations came from local schools, community centers, and even neighborhood associations asking him to speak about his experiences, not just as a Navy SEAL, but as a father, husband, and citizen committed to change. At first, Marcus was hesitant. He was trained for physical missions, not public speaking or community activism. But Lisa encouraged him, reminding him that his voice carried power in a different way, through his example of patience, strength, and dignity in the face of adversity. Marcus accepted the invitations, standing before groups of diverse ages and backgrounds, sharing his story in his calm, deliberate manner. He spoke about the importance of empathy, how understanding another person's perspective can diffuse the most tense situations. He recounted the night at the diner, not as a tale of confrontation, but as a lesson on maintaining composure and seeking peaceful resolutions. Simultaneously, the police department began to listen. The chief implemented new programs focused on communication skills, cultural awareness, and conflict resolution training for officers. Marcus was invited to participate in workshops, offering insights into how law enforcement could better engage with the community they served. Lisa, inspired by Marcus's dedication, started volunteering with local organizations that supported families and youth. Together, they hosted community events aimed at fostering dialogue and building trust. Their home became a safe haven for neighbors to gather, discuss concerns, and find solutions together. One of the most significant changes happened at the very diner where the incident had occurred. The owner, moved by the story and the community's response, organized monthly, unity nights. These events invited local residents, police officers, and community leaders to share meals and conversations in a relaxed, respectful environment. Marcus often attended, sitting alongside former skeptics and supporters alike, helping to bridge divides that had long seemed insurmountable. During one such evening, Marcus noticed several officers approaching their table with genuine smiles. They asked about his family, his background, and his work with the community. The atmosphere was markedly different from that tense night months earlier. The officers expressed gratitude for Marcus's willingness to engage and educate. Marcus extended his hand in friendship, symbolizing a new chapter built on mutual respect and understanding. The journey was far from over, there were still moments of tension and misunderstanding, but the walls that once separated neighbors and officers were beginning to crumble. Throughout this time, Marcus remained humble, emphasizing that true strength is not measured by physical prowess alone but by the courage to listen, to empathize, and to stand firm in one's values. His story became a beacon of hope, proving that even the most difficult encounters can lead to healing and progress when met with patience and dignity. As the Johnson family walked home that night, hand in hand, Marcus looked around at the neighborhood bathed in streetlights and the soft hum of life. He felt a profound sense of hope. The battle for fairness and respect was ongoing, but with each small step, they were moving closer to a community defined by unity rather than division. Over time, Marcus's efforts helped transform not just perceptions, but real relationships within the community. The initial incident at the diner, once a moment of tension and misunderstanding, had blossomed into a catalyst for lasting change. Schools invited Marcus and Lisa to speak during assemblies, sharing lessons about courage, respect, and the importance of standing up for others. Their children, proud and inspired, began to understand what it meant to be part of something bigger than themselves, a movement toward kindness and justice. The police department saw tangible improvements. Officers approached their duties with renewed awareness and a deeper commitment to community engagement. Programs were established that encouraged officers to spend time outside patrols, building friendships and understanding with residents. Marcus found new purpose balancing his demanding Navy SEAL career with his role as a community leader. He organized workshops on leadership and conflict resolution, blending his military experience with lessons on empathy and communication. His message was clear: true strength comes from connection, patience, and the courage to listen. One evening, the Johnson family returned to the diner for a community celebration hosted by the owner, marking the anniversary of the incident. The event was filled with laughter, music, and stories shared between neighbors and officers alike. Marcus watched as his family mingled freely, their smiles reflecting the progress made. He thought back to that tense night when strangers questioned them, unaware of the strength quietly sitting at the table. Now, that same strength was celebrated, not for violence or force, but for resilience, dignity, and the power to bring people together. As the night wound down, Marcus stood with Lisa and their children outside the diner, looking up at the stars. He felt a deep gratitude, for his family, for the lessons learned, and for the community that had embraced change. The real mission, he said softly, is making sure everyone feels safe and respected, no matter where they come from or what they look like. Lisa smiled, squeezing his hand. And you're leading that mission every day. With hope in their hearts and unity in their steps, the Johnson family walked home, a symbol of courage, change, and the enduring strength of compassion. As the months turned into a year, the Johnson family's journey became more than just a personal story, it evolved into a symbol of resilience and community healing. Marcus's calm strength and dedication had inspired many, showing that sometimes the quietest voices carry the most profound messages. At local schools, Marcus and Lisa were invited regularly to share their experiences with students, encouraging young people to approach conflict with patience and understanding. Their message emphasized that every individual deserves respect and that courage can take many forms, not just physical bravery, but also the bravery to stand up for fairness and kindness. The police department continued to evolve. Thanks in part to Marcus's involvement, officers received ongoing training focused on communication and community relations. Patrols were restructured to include time spent engaging positively with neighborhood residents, fostering relationships built on trust rather than suspicion. One of the most rewarding moments came when Marcus was asked to join a community advisory board. There, he worked alongside local leaders, law enforcement, and residents to create programs that addressed the root causes of misunderstandings and aimed to build lasting bridges across divides. Lisa's volunteer work flourished, supporting families and youth through mentorship programs and community events. Together, they hosted workshops on conflict resolution, parenting, and leadership, sharing practical tools alongside stories of hope and perseverance. Despite the challenges, Marcus remained grounded, always returning to the values instilled in him through his Navy SEAL training: discipline, integrity, and the responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves. One quiet evening, as Marcus sat on the porch with his family, he reflected on how far they had come. What had once been a tense encounter had sparked a chain reaction of change, in attitudes, policies, and most importantly, hearts. The community was far from perfect, but it was moving forward, step by step. And Marcus knew that as long as people were willing to listen, learn, and lead with empathy, there was hope for a better future. He looked at his wife and children, feeling proud not only of his own journey but of the legacy of courage and compassion they were building together. In that moment, Marcus understood that true strength isn't about the battles we fight alone, it's about the connections we forge and the positive change we create, together. Years later, the Johnson family's story remained a beacon of hope and strength within the community. Marcus's journey from that tense night at the diner to becoming a leader who bridged divides was a testament to the power of resilience and respect. His children grew up watching their father not only as a Navy SEAL but as a man committed to justice and unity. They learned firsthand that true courage meant standing tall with integrity, showing kindness even in difficult moments, and using one's strength to protect and uplift others. Marcus and Lisa continued their work, balancing family life with their community involvement. They were often invited to speak at events, sharing their story as a reminder that every person deserves fairness and dignity, no matter the circumstances. The police department maintained its commitment to change, implementing programs inspired by their collaboration with community members like Marcus. Officers and residents alike saw the benefits of open communication and mutual respect, leading to a safer and more connected neighborhood. One quiet evening, Marcus stood outside the diner where it all began. He looked up at the sky, feeling gratitude for the path they had traveled, from misunderstanding and tension to healing and hope. He knew the journey toward equality and understanding was ongoing, but he was confident that with courage, empathy, and unwavering commitment, change was possible. As Marcus rejoined his family inside, laughter and warmth filled the room. In their unity, he found strength, the kind that transcends any challenge and lights the way for others to follow. And so, the story of the Navy SEAL father who faced suspicion with calm dignity became more than a single night's event. It became a legacy, a powerful reminder that when we choose respect over fear, and understanding over division, we create a better world for everyone.